guys, welcome to a post where I'm going to update on the top 20 books I wanted to read in 2022. As I have mentioned before, beginning of 2022, I think it was January, I had a list of the books I wanted, top 20 books I wanted to get read in 2022. And this ended up being a list of, so I already did my top 10 new to me authors I wanted to read in 2022. This list of the top 20 books are generally books by authors I've already read, but I've been wanting to get to reading one of their books. So yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. It is 20 books, so I'm going to try to give a quick synopsis, story, what I thought about, and review fairly quickly. First book on the list is A Long Way to a Small Ink Planet by Becky Chambers. This is the first Wayfarers book. There's 4 books in this series. I ended up reading the whole series. I absolutely loved it. It's more of a science fiction, I'll say space opera-y thing, but that doesn't really do it justice because it is very thoughtful and it really looks at what it means to be human and how humans interact with alien species and all of this. And it was just really, really, really well done. And Becky Chambers is one of my favorite authors at this point. I have absolutely loved everything I've read by her. All right, second book on the list, The Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. I'm a pretty big John Scalzi fan as well. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. This is about a guy who loses his job during COVID and ends up getting kind of a secret job where he is teleported to a secret area where kaiju, giant monsters, exist, and they're pretty important for the stability of our Earth as a whole. And what ensues is a very fun read. It's a bit goofy. It's got kind of like a summer blockbuster movie feel to it, but I enjoyed it and I thought it was a nice, fun diversion. It wasn't absolutely amazing and groundbreaking, but it was definitely fun. The third one on the list is The City of Dusk, which is the first book in the Dark Gods series by Tara Sim. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. This is an epic fantasy. It had very cool magic and world building, but it switched point of view quite a bit, which made it a little bit slow. I had also read like the Clockmakers trilogy or something, one of Tara Sim's other series, and I really do enjoy her as an author. But this one, you know, I gave it 4 out of 5. As I said, it was good. It was a little slow. I am going to continue on with the series. All right, fourth book on the list, one I've been wanting to read forever, The Stand by Stephen King. And I may have mentioned this in previous posts, but I did not finish this. I did not realize at the time that I had got the unabridged edition, which is like, I don't know, 900 pages. No, it's more than that. It's like 1,500 pages long or something. I stopped at 60% of the way through it, which was 800 pages in. And I didn't finish it. I just didn't like it. I thought it was too slow. It was fairly predictable. It's just a lot of violence, sexual violence, torture for like no reason. It just seemed it was over the top. And I know a lot of people love this book, but I was not one of them. I think I may have been better off picking up the abridged version, like the original edition, because the long, whatever, 1,400 page one or whatever was just, it was just too slow for me, and I didn't really like it. Fifth book on the list is Master of Iron by Tricia Levenseller. This is the second book in the Bladesmith series. Absolutely love this. This is an amazing fantasy read. It's about a bladesmith who has some mental disorders. She gets very anxious and stuff around people, and she ends up kind of involved in a big plot. The first book was a little bit more adventure fantasy. This second book was a lot more political, but absolutely amazing. Again, Levenseller is a really go-to author for me. She just does such an amazing job on her stories. All right, sixth book on this list, Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Peterson. This was I didn't realize this, but this is a continuation of the Remnant Chronicles, which I actually didn't finish because I didn't like it that much. This was another did not finish for me. I got about 25% of the way into it, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And when I looked at my notes I had on it, this is the 3rd time I've tried to read this one, and I just, yeah, I didn't like it. The first 25% is very much like an enemy to lovers type of thing, and the characters are bantering back and forth, and there's like a million characters in there, and I didn't like it. I know a lot of people really like that one as well, but I wasn't a huge fan of the Remnant Chronicles either. So And Mary E. Pearson for me has been very hit or miss, so definitely a more risky author for me personally to read. Seventh book on the list is Red as Blood, White as Bone by Theodora Goss. I love Theodora Goss. She does some very dark, very weird, like fairy tale-esque stuff. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. It was super, super short, but it was a very well done dark fairy tale, and I enjoyed it. So Theodora Goss is another author. It's always good for me. All right. Number 8 on the list is The Tangleroot Palace by Marjorie Liu. She co-writes the Monstrous graphic novel series. I give this 4 out of 5. It's a collection of short stories. I have a lot of trouble giving like short story collections 5 stars, 5 out of 5, just because a lot of them are hit and miss. And that was the case in this one as well. Some of the stories were very much hit, some were miss. I really like the Tangleroot Palace novella. That was by far my favorite part of this book. But it was a nice variety of both genres and like fantasy subgenres. I think there's like some science fiction, some fantasy. It kind of had a pretty broad spectrum of variety. So I would definitely recommend if you like short stories. It was good. All right, 9th book on this list, Altered Carbon by Richard K. Morgan. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I actually had read this author previous to reading this book. This one was another one. I kind of struck out on this cyberpunk genre this year. I did not finish this. I got 35% of the way through the story and just stopped. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because I usually give my DNFs 3 out of 5 stars. I just didn't like this. The characters were pretty shallow. There's tons of gratuitous sex and violence. The plot was pretty basic. I just didn't like it. And I know it's very popular, like TV show and stuff, but I wasn't a fan. 10th book on the list. We're halfway through. And that is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. Sorry. And this is, I'm like blanking. She also writes under another name. And I have read some of her adult urban fantasy books, and I didn't really love them. But I thought that I would give this a try because people seem to really like the Black Sun series. This was another one I did not finish. I got 20% of the way through, put it aside, gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It's a very like religious driven fantasy, and I'm not a big fan of those. And there was a ton of jumping around between points of view and time, and I was having a lot of trouble keeping track of it. As I've mentioned many times on this channel, I was studying for the patent bar this year. I didn't really have time for a lot of like super complex books, especially ones I wasn't really interested in because, again, religious driven fantasy. So I did set that one aside. All right, 11th book on this list is The Secret Keeper of Jaipur by Alka. I'm going to say this wrong. Alka Joshi. This is the companion novel to The Henna Artist. All the same characters are in it. I did give this 5 out of 5 stars. It was spectacular. It's an intriguing historical fiction with a mystery, amazing characters, a really cool setting. I have just been loving Joshi's books, and I will definitely keep looking for books from her to read because it's just so well done. I just really enjoyed it. And not a fantasy. It's more just like a historical fiction. And yeah, it was fantastic. All right. Number 12 on the list, The Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. She also wrote Enchantment of Ravens, which I really liked. This one I gave 4 out of 5 stars. It is a standalone. It was a bit slow to start, but I really did love it's about a character who protects this library of grimoires, and I probably just said that wrong, but the mages have to keep the books happy or they'll kind of go rogue, and I thought it was a really fun, cool concept. But it was a little bit slow, and that's why I ended up giving 4 out of 5 stars. But again, Margaret Rogerson is another author I continue to watch because she just comes up with really cool, creative fantasy ideas. All right, number 13 on the list is The Merciless Ones by Namina Forna, second book in the Gilded Ones series. I loved the Gilded Ones. I absolutely adored it. This one I did not love. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I did finish it, but it was a little iffy. I just felt this was such a disappointing follow-up to the series. You feel very distanced from the characters, and they're kind of just like running from spot to spot trying to recruit people to their cause. It got very repetitive and kind of boring. Yeah, I was super disappointed in that, and I will not be finishing the series. I was just very irritated by how much I loved the first one and how much I did not like the second one. All right, 14th book on the series, Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. I have read, this was actually part of the reason I read a whole bunch more Kingfisher books this year. I gave this one 5 out of 5. I thought this was an absolutely wonderful fairy tale adventure fantasy. There's fun characters, neat themes. I mean, it has some dark aspects to it as well, but it was just such a fun like fairy tale read, and I just loved it so much. So that kind of kicked off my whole, I've read a few things by Kingfisher, but this was one of the reasons that I decided I need to go read like all of her books. All right, number 15 on the list, The Deepest of Secrets, which is the 7th book in the Rockton series by Kelley Armstrong. 5 out of 5. I love this whole series. This was the perfect ending to it. I'm a huge Kelley Armstrong fan. I actually don't like her Women of the Otherworld series, but I like everything else she writes. Yeah, so if you are all interested in kind of a unique, like survival-driven thriller of sorts, the whole Rockton series is very fantastic, and I would highly recommend it. Number 16 on this list, Wrath and Mercy by Jessica Rubinkowski. This is the second and final book in the Bright and Pale duology. 5 out of 5. I love this. I know this wasn't as popular of a fantasy, young adult fantasy series for some reason, but both of these books were just amazing adventure fantasy, great characters, really cool magic, and neat plot. Loved it. I absolutely loved it, and definitely going to be looking to see what Rubinkowski was writing next. All right, number 17 on this list, another less popular series, and that is the Activated by Nova McBee, which is the 3rd book, I think. Yeah, 3rd book in the Calculated series. I gave this 5 out of 5. This is kind of an adventure thriller, contemporary fiction type of book. It's about these young adults that have these super, like, almost like, what am I trying to think of? Like, they're savants in their fields. They're like geniuses in certain areas, and they are trying to basically save the world from things like political disasters, financial disasters, stuff like that. Our main character is a genius in math and economics, and she gets involved in all these crazy things. This one took a little bit more of a leap into like the paranormal genre, because our main character gets like so good at her abilities, they're almost paranormal at that point. But really love it, very excited to read this, and I try to talk about it quite a bit because it doesn't seem to get a lot of press or attention, and I'm not sure if the author's self-publishing these or not, but Nova McBee, I would check out because it's really, really good. All right, 18th book on the series, Locklands by Robert Jackson Benet. This is the 3rd book in the Founders trilogy. I adored the 1st book in the series. I thought the 2nd book was okay. This one, I gave 3 out of 5 stars. It was disappointing. I don't know. There was just too much page space given to describing the scribing part of it, which is a very cool aspect of this world, but we've dealt with it for like the last 2 books, so we don't need everything redescribed, and there was a lot of page space dedicated to that. At the end of it gets very weird and abstract. Like, it goes from a pretty interesting like steampunk themed fantasy, epic fantasy type of thing, to like this very weird abstract conclusion. I wasn't a huge fan. I did finish it, but I was pretty disappointed in the conclusion to that series. All right, 19th book on this list, and this should be a surprise to no one, The Long Forgotten Winter King by Annette Marie. This is the 2nd book in the Guild Codex Unveiled series. I also read the 3rd book this year. There had to be at least one Annette Marie book on this list, right? Because I just am a fangirl. This one I gave 4.5 stars out of 5. It was well done. It was fast-paced, urban fantasy. This is all about Zack the Druid and I'm like blanking on the main character's name. The other girl who is also a druid who has the Winter King as her like familiar. This one, I think it was a little slower than other ones, but still very good. I still gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right, and then the 20th book that I wanted to read in 2022 is Into the Riverlands by Ningvo, and that is the 3rd book in the Singing Cycle. 5 out of 5. I love this whole series. This is all about a cleric who ventures out to collect stories from the world. And this book, Chi, I think that's how you say their name, It's CHIH. Ventures into the Riverlands, which is kind of a more violent area full of bandits and fighters, and she goes to collect their stories, and she ends up in kind of a town of fighters, where she gets a very nice and interesting story. Really, this one probably one of the more action-packed books in this novella series, but the whole Singing Cycle series has been amazing. If you really like storytelling, like if you like stories about storytelling or just good like folklore-esque storytelling, very good series. All right, so those are the top 20 books that I wanted to read in 2022. Some of them were hits, some of them were misses, and that I kind of whipped through this, but there's a reason for that. And you might notice when I'm recording this, I'm actually wearing 3 shirts this morning. It's -10 outside today, and it feels like about -40. And my husband just went out to snow blow. You might hear that in the background. And I need to go out and assist with the shovel, but I'm going to have to put on quite a variety of warm weather gear before I do that. And I don't want him to be out there too long by himself, because at these temperatures, things get very dangerous. I think skin freezes in like 3 minutes or something like that. So we are gonna go finish that up. So that being said, if you had any excellent books you read this year that you'd like to share, please comment down below. I'm always eager to hear what people are reading, and I hope that you had a wonderful week of reading, and yeah, that you have some great books that you're planning to read in 2023. I will talk to you later. Bye.